believe in the ripple effect.
What's up? Another episode of Ripple Effect Podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Ricardo Rendez, also known as Ricky Varans, and a great episode for you today. Today we have returning guest and fan favorite, Dr. Jessica Rose. She's been on the show a bunch. We met during COVID, and since then, we have done tons of hours of great episodes of the Ripple Effect Podcast. She's also been on the Union of the Unwanted, and Dr. Jessica Rose has been on some amazing past roundtable discussions on the Ripple Effect Podcast. She's been on with Whitney Webb on episode 443. She's been on with Dr. Tom Cowan on episode 355. She's been on with Dr. Pierre Corey from episode 378. During the Canadian trucker protest, we also did a podcast with a bunch of Canadians so we could get a Canadian perspective on what was going on. And some of the people who joined us on that podcast was the Grimerica guys, Miriam Haneen, T. Snyder from the Conspiracy Synergy podcast, and of course, Dr. Jessica Rose. And then another amazing podcast we've done in the past is episode 369 with Trudeau's personal sniper. This was a guy who was hired to protect high-ranked politicians and then eventually became kind of like a whistleblower or somebody who fought against the high-ranked politicians he worked for because of the vaccine mandates. And his story is very fascinating, and we get into a lot of other different topics in regards to Canadian politics. And the reason why I bring up some of these past episodes so often is because I have been doing this podcast since 2013, and throughout the years, I've done what I think are some amazing episodes with some amazing guests. And when we're constantly getting new listeners and new subscribers to the Ripple Effect Podcast, I like to just let them know that there's some past episodes definitely worth checking out. And if you guys are ever looking for a past episode of the Ripple Effect Podcast, I know most people just use Google, but since being censored on YouTube and being banned, it is much harder to find anything related to the Ripple Effect Podcast on Google because YouTube and Google are the same companies. Apparently, if you get censored on one of them, you are now censored on both of them. Luckily, I have a search bar on my website, so go to rippleffectpodcast.com, and in that search bar, you can put in any past guests, any topic you might be looking for, and you can search the whole archives of the Ripple Effect Podcast. Now, before we get into this amazing conversation about COVID, the past, the present, the future, the global reset, and much more with Dr. Jessica Rose, I have to remind you guys that if you want this show to continue to grow, if you want episodes on a regular basis consistently, please consider helping out the Ripple Effect Podcast. It is a value for value show. If you get any value out of these discussions and all the years of great guests I have brought to you, please consider giving some value back. It doesn't have to be financial. Share the show, review the show, subscribe to the show, comment on the show on any of the platforms you watch or listen to the Ripple Effect Podcast. All that stuff helps fight against the algorithms that are censoring shows like these. But if you are in a decent financial situation and you can afford to support the show a little bit, please consider doing so. No donation is too little. And you can send a one-time donation to our PayPal account. You can send a one-time donation to our Venmo account. And everybody who has, I truly appreciate it. They're great little reminders for myself that people are appreciating what I'm doing and the work that the Ripple Effect Podcast has done throughout all these years. We also have a Patreon page if you want to support us monthly, and that's one of the best ways of supporting us. You can donate as little as $1 a month, and if a small percentage of people who download and listen to the Ripple Effect Podcast donated as little as $1 a month, I could easily do the show full time. So every little bit goes a long way. If everybody contributes, we can easily reach the goal of making the passion project the full-time career. We also have a merch store if you want to represent the Ripple Effect Podcast with a hoodie, t-shirt, mug, any of that stuff. Please check out the merch store. There's kids clothes, there's V-necks, there's tons of different stuff. You can go directly to the merch store by going to the Ripple Effect Podcast merch.com, or you can go to my website, rippleeffectpodcast.com, or in the show description and find links to the merch store. But like I said, browse around, look around. Hopefully you find something you like. And if you do, you'll get the stuff quickly and you can support the Ripple Effect Podcast and get some cool stuff. And then, of course, we have some sponsors. Content Safe is how I get my videos on all the video platforms I'm on. I'm on Minds, Band.video, Rumble, BitChute, Rockfin, and many others. And Content Safe gives me the ability to upload to one platform and then sync all my video channels together. So magically that video will appear on all the platforms I'm on. He also takes care of my website and runs my website. And when I say he, I mean Matt from Content Safe, who's a regular on the Ripple Effect Podcast and the Union of the Unwanted. And if you're a podcaster, content creator, or anything like that, streamer, hit up Matt from Content Safe. Let him know you're a listener to Ripple Effect Podcast, and he'll definitely take care of you. Next sponsor is the University of Reason, created by my good friend Richard Grove. And what he's done is he's given you an opportunity to get out of the everyday grind. He will give you the tools to get out of the wheel that you might be stuck on, the treadmill that's running in place, and help you expand your toolbox, learn some new skills, expand on skills you might have, network, connect you with a freedom-minded community, and give you everything you need to make sure you're not a slave to the machine. And if this is something you might be interested in, if you feel like you're at a crossroads in life or you just need a change, check out the University of Reason. Use the links in the show description or on my website, and hopefully you can help yourself and support the Ripple Effect Podcast at the same time. And then last but not least is Element Electrolytes. It is a great, amazing product. It has all the right dosages. It's keto friendly, fasting friendly, premium ingredients. Nothing that you don't need is in there. So no artificial colors, no artificial flavors. It's sweetened with the stevia leaf, and it can help with so many symptoms that you're dealing with that you don't realize are hydration related. Things like headaches, muscle cramping, fatigue, and many other things. It can also help optimize your performance in the gym or improve your performance playing whatever sport you might play. I know there's a lot of supplements out there and a lot of hydration products out there, but most of them lack the most important one, and that's sodium. It's not just an essential mineral, but when you sweat, it's what you sweat out the most. So that's why you need more of it to stay hydrated. Drinking water will get hydration into your blood, but to really get into your muscles and tissues, you need electrolytes. Use the link in the show description or on my website to get a free gift with every purchase. And also, when you use that link, you'll get tons of information and tons of science behind why Robb Wolf, who created this product and is a OG in the health and nutrition community and also an amazing past guest of mine, use these specific ingredients in these specific dosages. Robb Wolf has been around the health and nutrition world for a long time. He's done bodybuilding, jiu-jitsu, CrossFit. He's a best-selling author. He's done amazing documentaries like Sacred Cow. He's been on the Rogan podcast. So he knows what he's talking about. And before Element became a sponsor, I was already using the product. It's an amazing product. They also have amazing flavors to go into coffee. So if you want to hydrate while getting your caffeine, using Element is a great way of making sure that coffee doesn't dehydrate you. If you want to learn more about Robb Wolf and Element's origin story, look up the Ripple Effect Podcast and the name Robb Wolf, and you can find past episodes. That's it. The only other announcement is we just had the first Union of the Unwanted of 2024. If you're not familiar with that show, what it is, it's a roundtable discussion hosted by myself, Charlie Robinson from Macroaggressions, Sam Tripoli from Tinfoil Hat Podcast, and Midnight Mike from the OBDM show. We had the privilege and the pleasure of having Roseanne Barr join us on the last episode, and it was hilarious. It was fun. We got into so many different topics, and if you haven't checked it out, please do. She was on for almost 2 hours. The audio is available everywhere. The video is live streamed on our Rockfin channel. Eventually, you can also find the video on our Odyssey channel. You can find all these links and much more at theunionoftheunwanted.com. Thank you, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
I believe
see. I have popcorn in my teeth, so I'm like,
It's all right. So how you been?
oh, how have I been? Good. Just to warn you, if there's like a flicker and I go away, there's a storm going on, so it's because the power cut out. Just to warn you. It'll be back in a second, so stay tuned. Um, yeah, good, I suppose. It's been it's been a combination quiet and exciting 2024 so far for me. Just got a paper published. Was it yesterday or today? Gosh, no, it was 2 days ago, which is very exciting. It's called COVID-19 mRNA Injections, Lessons Learned from the Registrational Trials and Global Injection Campaign. So I implore everyone to go read that, including you. It's very fresh. How are you? How's life? Is it normal?
It for the most part, I guess. Obviously, the news from day to day has gotten absolutely insane, and it's really hard to keep up with everything. I feel like even since COVID, it's just been. I feel like if you just don't keep track of like current events and what's going on a daily basis, you're just constantly behind. You're like, what's disease X and what's this and what's that and what was that?
Why are all the countries being invaded, and why are there tractors out on the streets everywhere?
Yeah, and it's crazy because you don't know where you should focus your time, and it's nice to unplug too, because during COVID, I think it took a lot out of us, right? And just going back and reflecting on like just how many hours of conversations we had about, and you were you were killing it. You're doing tons of interviews and you're on, just spreading the information as much as you could and getting, the correct information out there and a different perspective that was being suppressed. And all of us, I just feel like we're emotionally, we're a little drained, but in a way, like I don't want to let it go, right? Like I feel like, it's a lot of us are on the same page. We're just like the average person, the normie, the whatever term you want to use, they just feel like they've been through a traumatizing situation and they want to just put it behind them and move on. And
we're connected, bro.
So do you feel the same way? You're kind of similar mindset?
That's why I did this, because just today, I always have these little like, if I'm working on a presentation, I formulate the next step in preparing that formulation on my walk. Sometimes on my walks, if I don't have something pressing, I'll just philosophize, ask questions, listen to what, comes to me when my mind goes silent. And today it was all about this, the trauma. That very word popped into my head, and it's like, I cannot think of anybody that I know or that I hear from who isn't traumatized in some way from the last few years on some level. And I do mean trauma. I mean, like, maybe not full-on PTSD, but I mean something that when they think back to it makes them feel really anxious, fearful, immobile, something that's preventing them from acting, maybe like traveling, like going on a trip because they're afraid of something, you know what I mean? So it's like, I absolutely agree with you that the feeling, that's what I was thinking about, actually. I was thinking about whether or not there's anybody alive who thinks that things are normal and okay. That's why I asked you. It's like, how do you feel now? Because it's like, for me, and that's exactly was my conclusion today. It's like those people who said that we're never going back to normal at the beginning of all of this were absolutely right. Because we're not going back to, that was never part of the plan, but it should never be in our minds to return to what we were, because that led us to here. So yeah, dudes, we're absolutely not going back to normal with any luck, with any hope, and with, the help of God and nature, we're going to get something better on the go. That we won't call normal. I suppose maybe one day if it evolves, if it evolves properly, I suppose that it will be considered normal. But yeah, it's like it's never been more important to keep your dukes up, because it's like, okay, it seems like, the next COVID era is going to be upon us soon. They're going to call it something else, and it's probably going to have the same nature. But this time, I'd say we're at a disadvantage and an advantage simultaneously. I'd say disadvantage because of all the damage that was done to us emotionally, physically, mentally. But we're at an advantage because there's so many of us now, to the point where it seems like the WEF themselves are starting to get a little bit afraid. Did you notice that? I mean, their whole theme for Davos this year was regaining public trust. And it's like, oh, did you lose public trust? I think I might be able to help you find it.
I couldn't agree with you more. I look at what happened the last 3-4 years, and it's you look at the divorce rate, for example. Like, I think there's a lot of things that weren't even contributors direct. Like, for example, divorce rate. I know a lot of people who since 2020 have been separated, and like, I would joke and I'm like, hey, if you made it through COVID, you're good. I'm like, because if you could deal with each other, living together, stuck in a house when you're not busy, and you can't miss something that you're with all the time. So it's hard to miss each other when you're together all the time. A lot of times you start driving each other crazy. And if you get past that and you're back to your normal routines, then you're probably good to go. But then I saw a lot of people afterwards dealing with separations and dealing with issues and relationship issues. And I'm like, I don't get it. If you got through COVID, why would now you guys decide it's, and I realized that, and I'd love to get your input, and I'd love to know if it's what your opinion is on my theory, but I think it is due to that trauma. I think it fucked people up, and emotionally and mentally, some people are just not the same. And because of it, like, they struggle to be happy. They struggle to maybe they got too much of each other, or they got it on each other's nerves, or maybe they got to the point where they're like life's too short, and I need to find happiness somewhere else, and because this isn't as fulfilling as I thought it was, and it took a reset, a global reset to kind of get me to notice that. I was hoping the global reset would help people realize, like, hey, maybe you should be spending more time doing things you enjoy instead of being stuck in this, this mouse on a wheel, just kind of running in place, buying shit you don't need, working a job that doesn't fulfill you, and not really contributing anything to the universe.
But that's interesting, because what you just said might be why people broke up, because they thought, well, I need to go live life to the fullest, so I can't do that with you. Like, who knows, right? But another idea that I have, because it's in VAERS, I'm not making any claims here, but, and VAERS is the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System of the states, and changes in personality is a measure code. And it's notable in VAERS that people have been diagnosed with personality changes since being injected with the COVID shots. So I also wonder, because I was just, sometimes I go on YouTube and I watch like Hollywood dramas playouts, because for some reason I find it morbidly fascinating what 50 Cent is saying, for example. And it's interesting to watch, like, it's just what you said. It's not the personal side. It's this Hollywoodized side. But there are people who have, who are in this limelight, so to say, who have separated or divorced since, like, they got through the COVID thing, but then they decided to separate. And I'm like, I wonder how many of those people got injected. It would be the first thing I'd ask people, because maybe there is something happening whereby a personality change is occurring. I find, like, I'm going to throw something out here, and it's not based in science. It's just something I've observed. And I wonder, I would hypothesize about, like, where does apathy lie on the scale of people? And that also ties into trauma. But I wonder, like, from a physiological point of view, an induced physiological point of view, where does apathy like fall right now? Because from my point of view, from observing the world, like in my close proximity, it seems like apathy is really up. And maybe it's probably more so tied to that feeling that people have after what they've been put through, right? It's like, but I don't just mean frustration and depression. I mean apathy, like a lack of wanting to pursue the good stuff in life that's really available to us if we pursue it. There's kind of like a, tell me if that's what you see or if you perceive that at all, because I do see a lot of that around me. And I really do wonder if this is one of the other things that's associated with the shots, because there's like 14,000 different types of adverse events reported to VAERS in the context of these shots, which is like way, way broader of a range than for all vaccines combined reported for the past 30 years. It's like, this is really systemic, we'll call it damage. So it's like, yeah, so just to wrap that up in a package, it's like, life kind of is standard, I suppose, is a better way to put it, not normal, but it's like every day I'm still asking these basic questions now that I have like the mental space, the freedom, you know, to ask, like, how much of what I'm seeing now is the result of the measures and how much is the shots? You know what I mean? So, yeah.
And they probably correlate because or they're linked, because you think about like stress, one of the biggest killers in the world, you know, like people who are overstressed, like tons of health issues get worse because of stress. So even if you have a little health issue, you know, if you're stressed and you're not mentally in a good place, physically you're not going to be in a good place. I bring up this book all the time, Mind Over Back Pain, because it kind of highlights this idea of like this leading back surgeon, Dr. Sorno, who passed away now, but he found that like a lot of people who had really messed up backs wouldn't have high pain, and people who didn't have messed up backs would have high pain. He's like, what is going on here? And he was one of the leading back surgeons. He's like, this doesn't make any sense because what I'm seeing isn't reflecting how they're feeling. And then he started asking him questions and realized like it almost consistently that the people who were saying that they had high pain, it wasn't physical. It was because they were dealing with like a death in the family. They were between jobs. Maybe they had some marriage issues, whatever it may be. And it was kind of inflaming or maybe even the body was looking for somewhere to release that stress or that pain. And they thought it was the back that was causing the pain when really it was an emotional or a mental thing. And so you think about like this increase in all these health issues since COVID, right? And like, I think in some cases it could be the vaccine, or I think in probably most cases it's probably the vaccine. I mean, there's been a lot of like just random deaths since the introduction of the vaccine to the public. You've seen lots of celebrities, you know, young people, athletes, people that are typically healthy having tons of issues, which is insane that people still don't have this conversation, because the J&J vaccine was literally taken off the market because of these exact health issues. And yet people are like, yeah, you know, it's not vaccine related. But you know, just recently the Golden State Warriors had a assistant coach, I think he was in his 40s, who during a team dinner, it was like just a day, you know, between games, I think it was like an off day, and they had a team dinner, in his 40s, just died during the team dinner, like passed out. And I knew something was weird because I get a lot of NBA updates on my phone, and all of a sudden I see like, hey, Golden State Warriors versus whoever game canceled due to incident at or passing out of assistant coach at dinner. And I'm like, you don't cancel a game because somebody gets hospitalized, because assistant coach gets hospitalized, but you do cancel a game if somebody died and the team's traumatized. And and then eventually what I thought happened. I'm like, he ended up dying, and Golden State Warriors, obviously from California, one of the worst places to be in during COVID. So you can guarantee that they were all vaccinated. Andrew Wiggins, who also is a fellow Canadian, and in my eyes a hero, because he pushed back as much as he could. Is he Canadian? Yeah, no, he's not Canadian, but he was one of the. Why do I feel like he was linked to Can? Oh, he couldn't go to Canada while he was playing. But is he Canadian too? I don't know. Either way, I'm gonna have to look this up next time I have a second. But Wiggins wouldn't get the vaccine and pushed back as much as he could, and a lot of a few Bradley Beal, a couple NBA players pushed back. But eventually, you had to give in, because if you're in California, they're just like, you couldn't go anywhere, you couldn't do anything if you weren't vaccinated. So you have to assume that the assistant coach on the Golden State Warriors, in California, probably was vaccinated. And the thing is, like, it's not to say that every spontaneous death or unforeseen death or just random death is linked to the vaccine, but we have to at least consider it. And that's the thing that's frustrating. But I guess back to my initial point, like, so a lot of people were having like the increase in cancers, the increase in, all these health conditions that are going up. I mean, Canada, 3 years in a row, the life expectancy has gone down. The first time ever in history, 3 years in a row, the life expectancy has gone down. I think recently on a Rogan podcast, he even said that it's down like 2.5 years or something like that. But it's like, it's insane. And so the fact that people aren't asking these questions make me think that either one, there's some guilt, right? Like there's some they finally realize, like, hey, I fucked up. Like, I was really mean to people. I demonized people and I was wrong. And now I have some guilt. And some people deal with guilt by not talking about it and trying to not have to stare their mistakes in the mirror and be honest with themselves that, hey, I fucked up, and not wanting to, and maybe avoiding having to apologize to others. And other people, I think, put it behind them and just try not to talk about it and pretend it never happened. And I also, again, like I said before, like, I think anytime you deal with trauma, I think people deal with it slightly different, but many people just want to put it behind them and don't want to constantly remember. I talk about this all the time about how, like, I never talk about work at home or with my friends or whatever. And like, one of my best friends, he's a detective, and he doesn't hang out with other cops because he's like, all they do is talk shop. All they want to do is talk about work. And he's like, and then, one thing about, and I think listeners will know this in their own personal lives. Like, if you talk about a frustrating situation, if you talk about something that was emotionally overwhelming or draining, or, any negative interaction or trauma that you've dealt with, you're almost reliving it again. And when you're sharing the story emotionally, it's like you're there again, and then it wears you out. I find myself, like, when we talk about, anytime I have a guest on, and we start talking about COVID and specifically like the lockdowns, and I start thinking about like the kids wearing masks and the kids who, healthy kids who want to just go back to school and how to get vaccinated and all this stuff, and just like all the horrors of it, and like people just being, the truly afraid people who just didn't know any better and were petrified that they were going to die because they, got some germs on their hands, or if somebody like sneezed next to them. And I get worked up again. I could find myself like just getting emotionally, just invested in this again, and angry. And, I want to forgive the people who were wrong, because there's plenty of them who are, especially in my personal life, online. There's plenty of people that were wrong that I butt heads with. I want to forgive them, but I don't want to forget. And I don't want to forget because I want to punish those people. I want to punish people who are responsible for this. And I think those people need punishment. And that's why this issue, as easy as it is to just start talking about Russia and Ukraine, or talk about, crypto, or talk about, even, one thing that drives me nuts. I was talking about getting worked up, and I'm literally getting worked up as I'm talking about getting worked up. But the Israel, and you, actually, I want your opinion because you're still in Israel, I believe. And, I'd love your opinion from the outside, and I mean outside of America's perspective. But like, I see all these like anti-war people people from the left, libertarians now who are so passionate about like, Israel and Hamas, and they're so strong about like, their opinions on Israel is the worst thing ever, or Hamas is the worst thing ever. And I'm like, we literally went through like literally the biggest event in human history globally. And I confidently say that because give me another example of a human event, any historical event ever that every
Affected.
single person on the planet participated in and went through together. There's nothing. In World War I, World War II, the biggest wars in human history, there was neutral countries. There were countries that had nothing to do with it, that were not affected. There was nobody who was not affected by this. It was a global eugenics experiment. They sterilized women. It looks like they because they're giving this vaccine to women who are now miscarriages have gone up and whatever. Like you killed people. And the fact that like I see all this emotional investment in like this because it's like it's easy. It's geopolitics. It's like war is bad. Everybody can agree with that. But like when it wasn't easy to like step up and realize that like, hey, we're being lied to. And if you speak out against this, like you're going to get censored. You're going to get called a conspiracy theorist. You're going to have family and friends who hate you. You're going to be called a horrible person. You're going to be called somebody who's spreading dangerous and misinformation. Like you didn't step up then. And yet now all of a sudden that's behind us, kind of, or at least publicly, it's kind of behind us. Like now you're like, yeah, I'm ready to get angry again and get and really be passionate about this one issue. It's like, dude, the biggest issue just happened and you didn't say shit. Like I'm getting worked up, sorry, but you get my point. I don't know what your feelings are, but I'm just like, I see all these people debating online about other issues, and I'm just like, can we take that passion and we take that all that work you're putting into this topic, and not to say that these topics aren't important, but can we focus some of that energy against like getting some justice after the biggest event in human history? Like I just don't understand how people are not seeing how important the last since 2020 the last years have been, and for human history. Like you said, it's been a global reset for many different reasons, for better or worse, and things will never be the same, and yet we're like so quick to just get back to arguing about the same shit we're arguing about before 2020.
Yeah, it goes back to this predation. So like, okay, before I say other stuff, and I'll probably forget, whatever, but Wiggins is Canadian. And one of the other things I came up with, sometimes I get quotes in my head as a summary of, the philosophical thought thing that I had on my walk. So today it was, it's about forgiveness, because you're absolutely right about like most people probably feel a bit of guilt. They probably feel maybe ashamed. Maybe some of them are scared because of what they're hearing about the shots, but there's never a wrong time to do the right thing. That was the conclusion that I came up with. And I've said this a number of times. The community of people who have always been embracing and spouting the truth about things will never deny another person into this realm of truth. We can't deny you. It's like it is what it is. And from an emotional point of view, it's like personally, I'm like I don't give a shit what you did before. I don't give a shit what you said before. And I know that's very controversial right now, but I don't care. I care what you're doing now. And every single day, I want to encourage people to come out of hiding or whatever it is, to address those conflicts within yourself first, because it's, again, it always comes back to the self. It's like everyone's, peeling their own onion. And if one thing I can do, period, as a human being, I would like to project a space of security. I don't know how to say it. It's like, I won't ever judge anyone for what they did. We're human. We all make mistakes. We all screw up all the time. you know, like forget about that and let's deal with what we have to deal with now, which is we have to acknowledge our traumas. We have to somehow heal. And a lot, I know what you're saying about talking and reliving it, but I think that talking and sharing really it releases some of what you're feeling, and in a selfish way you give it to me, but I love that. I mean, anyone can talk to me about anything. I want to take it. It's like it helps me. So it's like misery loves company. I don't know what it is, but it's healing too, because the thing that's missing, I think, or has been missing, and maybe has, you know, people are starting to realize now, is the true human bond. And in order to really feel bonded with someone, I think that you have to feel understood above everything else. And that's really hard because nobody's ever really totally understood because we're like individuals. But like, I think the reason why certain people come together and certain people come together more quickly and easily is because they're kind of vibrating on the same plane of understanding. It's like they've come to a level of understanding themselves and their surroundings and how they interact with other people in a way that they can interact to be productive, I guess, to grow. I mean, relationships with other people should always involve yourself growing and hopefully helping others grow too. But yeah, it's like there have been so many psyops in all of this, but I couldn't agree with you more. It's like this one giant psyop is, I mean, you're absolutely right. No other thing has ever really involved everyone in the world. Not even the so-called Spanish flu, you know what I mean? It affected everyone. It didn't affect, you know, remote tribes, but whatever. I mean, maybe this didn't either. I mean, the really deep ones, but like and of course this also has to do, and I mean, it begs the question, would any of this have been able to happen without this internet connectivity that we have now? Because
That's
it's a
such a good
fascinating.
point. That is such a good, you know what's funny? I'd never even pondered on that. Like the idea that if we weren't so all connected, if there wasn't the ability,
How would we have found out?
that's a really good point. And I mean, maybe eventually the news would get around, but everybody, this
What you see, it's always been about what you see. And if you go outside, this is how I knew this was all a farce. It's like you go outside and people aren't dying in the streets for reals. That's what you're going to trust, right? You'd hope that you'd trust your eyes, not the fear mongering propaganda stuff on the TV.
I would say
So,
that all the time. I'm like, turn off your TV and then tell me if we're going through a pandemic.
right. And that's another thing. It's like, and I was thinking about this today. It's like, I can't believe how, and that's why that's what I meant when I said I hope we don't return to normal, because it's like that's the way that we were got us to where we are now. And it's like, but so many people are walking around thinking that this is okay, and it's so not. It's like so many people yielded, or what's the right word? Wielded. They just gave up their right to decide for themselves because of the pressures, because of the coercion, because of some reason, whatever, but they were convinced, because it's here all the time. It's like this cage that we're in that we can't see, that we don't have the right to decide for ourselves where to move, how to live, what to do, what to say. It's a lie. We're the only ones who ever were in charge of what we do and what we say and what we feel. No one can take it from us. No one can tell you that you can't move somewhere. It's a lie. And I know that people are probably saying, yeah, but they do. And I'm like, yeah, but you know why they do? It's because we let them. It's on us. It's like the masses need to realize that we are the masses. And there's a lot of us, and nothing flies without the consent of the people. So don't give away your consent. Don't give away your sovereignty, your right to feel what you're feeling. Don't let them, don't let it's like I really wish I could again, local. If I convince one person that they absolutely don't have to do anything that they're told that doesn't align with how they're feeling in their heart, not necessarily their head, but their heart, then I'll be fine with that, because your heart's never going to lie to you. Your brain might lie to you, but your heart won't. It's like, and I've said this a number of times. It's like, I can't get over how, because I know that everybody has felt, no matter who you are, no matter what decisions you made, everybody has known that something's wrong. Is that what my heart is? Which side is, yeah, it's here, sorry. Yeah, this side. Everyone's known that there's something amiss from whatever, and not this killer virus crap. I mean, something was amiss. Like, how is it that this was so well coordinated? How is it that things are moving toward this idea of a central government of the world? That's a terrifying idea. And anybody who doesn't know what's going on in terms of the international health regulation amendments in the WHO treaty right now, or in the WHO, that they're trying to put forth for the member countries, you really got to learn about that, because we ain't seen nothing yet when we're thinking about totalitarianism creeping up our arseholes. Like, they got plans, man. The good news is that we know, some of us know, and we're pushing back in the right ways, but they're very sneaky. They have meetings behind closed doors. They get funded by people who keep things very hush-hush. They make it look very different from how it would ever be. I mean, there's this thing going around Twitter right now from Schwabi, and he says, nobody who has nothing to hide has a problem. And it's like, says the guy who defines a problem as somebody wanting to walk outside their house for more than 5 minutes a day, more than 100 meters away. You know what I mean? It's like, think, guys, replace words with like your biggest fear. Try that as an exercise, and then see how those statements that they make pan out. Because what they're saying, these 15 sustainable goals, or however many of them there are, they're really, really sketchy. Seriously. That's what's coming. That's why I think the whole thing came upon us, which is why I think now's not the time to be apathetic. And yes, engage with yourself, heal your trauma. But one of the things that I'm trying to do that, to engage that, is by acting, by learning about what actually happened, learning law stuff that I never knew about, so that I know my legal rights, for example, or I know what they can't do to me if they say that they can. You know what I mean? So it's like, engage with your trauma and heal by taking action to prevent shit from happening in the future. It's like, that's what we need to do as a global population now, which is also kind of the silver lining, because we really can see now that we're a global population. Because like you said, it's like, we've never all been simultaneously affected by anything before now. So it's a good thing in a morbid way.
Well, I think we also learn how fragile civilization is, and how everybody has been, how many of us live unfulfilled lives, and our lifestyles are not, not really creating happiness. People are over medicated, people are overworked, people are self-medicating with alcohol and pills and prescription drugs, and every human emotion is considered a disease, which I saw
Yeah.
you tweet something recently by I forget the guy who did the documentary What is a Woman? What's his name? It, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I'm looking for his name because shamefully it doesn't come to me immediately either. But I'm not good with names. It's no
Oh,
reflection.
yeah, I'm awful with names too. But he yeah, he Matt Walsh, I found it.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
but 100% where it's just like, every human emotion is and it's like, so why do we have so many people that are down and unhappy and unfulfilled? And it's, we've created a world where our life is about materialism, and like it's basically a trick. I mean, we've been tricked to believe that the road to happiness is paved with money and materialism, and focusing on your career and not focus on your relationships and your community and your passion, and those type of things that actually bring you real happiness, or just being a good person, your moral compass. This is where I think I've changed quite a bit from when I started this podcast in 2013 to now. Is just like I kind of feel like I've changed my opinion on the need or the necessity of religion and spirituality. And not to say that, there's not a billion examples of where religion has done, has led to some, wars and conflicts and awful things. But I think a lot of times it's been people who have used, weaponized religion, right? It's like climate change. The idea of being anti-pollution isn't a bad idea. The idea of like taking care of Mother Nature is not a bad idea. But then it gets weaponized, and then it's about, taxing you. It's about controlling you. It's about those things. And I think spirituality and religion can be very similar, where I think it's a great idea to zoom out and have something that asks the bigger questions, right? Like, what's the meaning of life? Why are we here? Why, what happens after life? These are things that the average person doesn't ponder on, right? Like, or they just come to the conclusion that it's all just material, and we just die and we disintegrate, and that's the end of the story. And it's like, well, there's so many questions in the universe that we don't understand, and there's so many, near death experiences, and people who, ancient civilizations, and old writings of life after death or reincarnation. Like, where are all these stories coming from? And go ahead.
I'll forget if I don't ask you now. I wanted to ask you what your take on the whole giant in the Miami Mall was. I think it was called the Riverside, Bayside. Anyway, you know that the story about all this really, really large number of police units were like descended upon this mall, and their claim was that it was a bunch of rowdy teenagers. But did you see the footage?
I didn't see the footage. I thought there were, like, somebody was saying that there were aliens. Was it giants?
Okay, so there's a bunch of ideas going around, but okay, you have to look at the footage because I've never seen anything like it. I think there were police helicopters as well. They shut down the airport. They had like I would guess like I'm probably going to be wrong here, but they had at least 50 units out. It was crazy amount of cops dispatched for teenagers for roughhousing. That was the story. So I heard two things. But the central story is that a bunch of teenagers were the source. But what they did, according to sources, is that they opened a portal using some device in this mall, and giants came out. And I don't know if people think they're aliens or if they're just giants, like some other species. So I was like, that's interesting. And there's even like someone who blew up a photo of like a giant walking outside of the mall. And I was like, maybe he was just looking for the right size pants. But anyway, I watched these like videos strung together, like TikTok videos and YouTube videos that are like based on like creepy or weird stories because it's fun to do that. And there's a story going around I've seen from multiple sources that claim that if you enter the coordinates of the mall into like a finder, you'll find the mall. And if you reverse the longitude and latitude, you get Antarctica. And so some people are thinking that that a porthole opened up in the wrong location, like the giants or the aliens dialed in the wrong coordinates. So anyway, it's wild. It's like I mean, I have to say that I guess that would be considered an actual conspiracy theory because I have no data to confirm or deny anything that people are saying, except for the large number of policemen that were dispatched that night. And their claim that it was because of a few teenagers, which doesn't seem likely. So it's really interesting because something went down, but it's like there's no footage. There's no like the only one of the only firsthand accounts of people who were there that I saw was allegedly a graffiti artist. So you'd think that a graffiti artist would be really good at drawing a depiction of what he saw. He claims to have seen with his eyes. When he did that, it looked like a 3-year-old, you know what a 3-year-old's drawings look like. So it looked like that. And I'm like, wait, no, this guy's a graffiti artist? Shouldn't this be a little bit more artistic? Anyway, so I it's a little bit of lighthearted switch of of conversation. So
Have you ever heard of a General Byrd, B-R-Y-D? I think it's B-R-Y-D. I'm going to look it up. An
I
Operation
heard the name, but I can't connect it to what it
So look up,
reminds.
let me see if I can find it. I think it's called Operation High Jump. And so it's funny that you bring up Antarctica because so there's this General Byrd who was asked to go to Antarctica on a mission. And supposedly this guy was like a respected general
Oh, I
who,
know who you're talking about now. I saw a doco about him.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he like apparently found a civilization of like Nazi Germans there and like
Oh, no, I didn't hear that.
yeah, he
Oh,
came back and said there was a civilization in Antarctica, which is weird because somebody who was very into the occultism, symbolism, and mysticism. I mean, Hitler was very much into that, and so you know, maybe there's something to this story. I'll tell you, the more people, the more I learn about UFOs and ETs and people's personal experiences and firsthand contact. Everything from like the schools who end up having all these children who believe that they were contacted by some being from another planet or universe, and as adults reflect on it and still have the same stories and swear that there was some like nonverbal method of communication. You hear these stories like there's if you haven't listened to, it's not the most recent, but it's the second to the last most recent Rogan podcast with Diane Walsh something. I forget what her last name is. Amazing podcast. And she dives deep into this. I had recently also this guy, oh my God, I'm like you, I'm so bad with names. And I always feel bad because especially if it's a guest on my show, because I want to give them the credit that they deserve. But give me 1 second, I'll find it because he was on not too long ago. So Ralph Blumenthal, right? He let me go to screen share and see if I can find it. Okay. So this guy, Ralph Blumenthal, he was that really famous New York Times article that kind of talked about the Tic Tac videos and all that stuff. He was the journalist who was a part of that article and exposed that whole story and kind of brought UFOs and that whole story into, and a lot of those films in general, into the public light. And he was the one who contacted or got contacted by whistleblower David Grusch. And but he also has a book called The Believer. And it's about this this guy called Dr. John Mack, and John Mack was a prize-winning psychologist at Harvard, and he was a mostly a child psychologist, and he was asked to go talk to, because he knew a lot about psychology, to go talk to people who said that they were abducted by aliens and having these encounters. So he went in as a skeptic, basically trying to uncover the fact that possibly, these people are just crazy, or they're dealing with some trauma, or coming, it's their imagination gone wild. But what ends up happening is that the deeper he goes down his rabbit hole, the more he becomes a believer. And he doesn't, and he ends up doing like interviews on Larry King and whatever. And and the thing is, people don't realize how dangerous it was for him to publicly talk about this, because he was a prize-winning Harvard psychologist who was a best-selling author, writing about, child psychology and nightmares specifically too. He was like an expert in nightmares and night terrors. And so for him to now become a believer and openly say like, hey, I don't know if these experiences were physical or how they experienced it, if it was mental, if it was some other dimension, if it was some other realm or whatever. But he's like, he believed that these experiences happened, that these people experienced what they're saying they experienced. And so, and he became a believer. And I kind of feel like Dr. John Mack, because for a long time, I didn't find the UFO abduction stories that interesting, because I'm like, how do you, like, where do you go from there? Like, okay, it's just stories. Somebody had an experience. Like, I don't understand. Like, what else is there to talk about? Like, there's no way of knowing what happened or didn't happen or whatever. But what I'm starting to realize, that it's not about, like, the focus of the story shouldn't be about like, did this person experience this or not? What it does, it opens a Pandora box of other questions, and it makes you ask the questions that are really fun, like, what is reality? Is this a realm? Is this, are we the only, life on this planet? Like, is there life underneath the ocean? Right? Sometimes you see a lot of UFOs coming out from the water. We have, the majority of ocean life is unexplored. Don't have any equipment that can go down there. So if you, if you had the technology to go in there and live under the ocean, why wouldn't you? It'd be a great place to hide. So all
great place to do research.
Yeah. So there's like all these mystery. Also, it all opens it opens up the topics of discussions about government technology, right? And how advanced it is. And like, a lot of people believe that either the government is now openly talking about it because they can't suppress the information anymore, or they're openly talking about it because it's their technology, and eventually they are going to be exposed, and they're going to eventually have to go public with what technology they do have. But what makes that topic interesting, or more interesting, I should say, is the fact that it could be, and what a lot of people are saying now, and these discussions are happening on a lot of mainstream podcasts now, and mainstream media too, that it could be reversed engineered technology, that they've been reverse engineering all the way back from the 1920s to 1930s to Roswell is just one case of it. You keep hearing about the metals that they found that you could crumple up and then it would just go back to form. You hear about people going in these, spaceships, for lack of a better term, and they look small, and then the second you get into them, it's like a football field size, room, and it's like, what, and is it mental? And this is, it's funny because I was just on I was interviewed on another show yesterday, and we were talking about this, about how, like, I feel like we're antennas, right? And I think music, sometimes we tap into things, when we're creating music, we're creating poetry, anything creative, anything that requires imagination. A lot of times people who create, obviously you're musician. I've dibble dabble with music my whole life too. And it, sometimes you do feel like these ideas come from somewhere else, like you almost tapped into something else. And I'm always curious of, like, these spiritual people, religious people who mess around with psychedelics, people who are having like experiences, if they're all just people who have better antennas, or at least, open-minded to the idea, and not and actually maybe seeking it out or whatnot, and maybe a more spiritual, more at peace lifestyle and mindset helps you tap into that. And
Yep.
maybe the food that they're force feeding us and the unhealthiness and our, that's causing us to be low energy, low frequency, low vibration people, maybe that affect, is affecting our ability to realize like maybe there's more out there than meets the eye.
Yeah, the psychic barrier phenomena. So yeah, I have so much to say. Like, one of the things I heard in watching these clips of videos, because a lot of them are about the UFO stuff, especially now because they're like, they're it's coming out, which might also be another psyop, who knows? But one of the points that the guy made as a comment when he was watching the videos, I was watching the guy make comments about the video. It's kind of weird, but he said he can't understand, and it's a valid point, how beings with all of this amazing technology and can travel across galaxies and stuff like that would ever be able to crash on Earth. And so I'm like, yeah, good point. But first of all, I don't think this is about like physical space travel. I think it's interdimensional travel. Second of all, I think that it's absolutely reverse engineering from stuff, from materials that maybe have been taken. That scares me because it's like, it makes me wonder if our species hasn't aggressed against others out of fear, which seems logical because that's kind of how we work, right? Like a lot of people will fire a gun at something that they're afraid of without even finding out if it's a threat. You know what I mean? It's like we're kind of like that, which is stupid. We have to evolve past that. But yeah, it made me wonder like how much trouble are we in, like with other interdimensional beings, for example, because we might have done something not so great to some of them. And if they're listening to me right now, I have nothing against you. Absolutely not. Fascinated to learn more about you. But yeah, it's interesting that the thing about the whole UFO thing in general, no, not UFOs, the thing about abduction that I find absolutely fascinating. And I did have my own experience, by the way. If you want me to tell you, I will. Took me 21 years to get that out of my mouth because I was, yeah, I'll tell you anyway.
Gotta hear that story. That is because I'm so fascinated with it, and and it as somebody who's a PhD like yourself, it's probably not easy for you to come out and just tell your very
it's not that part. It's not the believing part. It's the what it did to me part. You can see my body language now. I'm still bothered by it, and I'm 49, so it's like anyway. So the thing about it is that strikes me as a scientist, as a person who's a non-believer in a lot of things, a skeptic, whatever, is how many people describe exactly the same thing. And on the subject matter of your guy, the was it Harvard trained, or the Ivy League school trained guy who kind of became a believer, it's like you must, because you're listening to millions and millions and millions of people tell the same story. I mean, it's not an anecdote. Something is going on there. And it's possible that, regardless, the person believes that they're having that experience. So there's something real about it. Most people would call it a delusion, but if everyone's having the same delusion, is it still a delusion? That's my question. So when I was really young, I was living in Sault Ste. Marie, which is a small town in Ontario. I don't have a lot of memories about this, but I remember my mom, much later in life, told me that I wouldn't go into my room for like a week because she said I was really scared. And I was like, really? So there was some kind of suppression of this. And then slowly, I kind of have mental images of something happening, and I still have no idea what it was. I'm not making any definitive assessments. So it was nighttime. My bed, I had one of, the twin beds that everybody had in the 80s, that was pushed against the wall, and my window was here. And it's interesting because when I go back in my memory, which could be completely like wrong by now, I see moonlight coming in the window as if it was a bright night. And I think the moon was out that night and it was a bright night, but this was a lot of light. And I'm not talking about this light that they project in movies, like when UFOs come around. No, it wasn't like that. It was just kind of bright moonlight. If you know what I mean, if there's a full moon and it's outside your window, that kind of light was coming into my room. I could see everything really well, and it was nighttime. So it was well past my bedtime, and I was awoken. And I remember I was kind of up on I was on my back, and I was up on my elbows. And I saw these things sitting on my legs. There were 3 of them, and they were like little short guys, and they had like squinchy faces, and they were kind of like, they were dark color, and they had like what I would describe as cloaks or robes or something. I know that sounds specific, but that's what I'm remembering that I saw, which again, could be completely wrong. But that's what I remember seeing. And they were doing something. I mean, clearly they were in a circle, and it was like, there was 1, 2, 3. So I saw this one was facing me, and these 2 were kind of like, had their sides to me, but they were in a circle and they were doing something. I didn't feel that they were doing something to me, but I was being affected because I couldn't move. I had we call it, in Newfoundland, we call it the old hag. I was paralyzed. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. You know about the old hag? Anyway, we can talk about that. So it's a phenomenon that is akin to what I went through physiologically from some kind of stimulus. So the old hag is when the old lady sits on your neck and you're paralyzed. But anyway, so I remember very distinctly this part. I turned my head to the right, just like a 30-degree angle. And I have a table with flowers and a closet in the corner. I saw my room. I see my room when I turn my head and I look into the memory. And I tried really hard to call out my mom's name. And all I heard was, like, I can still hear it now. There was no voice. I was diagnostically, I was paralyzed. I couldn't scream and I couldn't move because I was so frightened. So the question I have about what happened to me is, was it a dream that just seemed extra real that frightened me? Or did something frighten me in reality, whatever reality is? Like, I always had questions about it. I still have no answers. I haven't had anything like that happen since. It didn't affect me, other than my mom said I wouldn't go into my room for a week. And I didn't really remember it until later. But then like I said to you, the first time I told this story to anyone, I was 21, which was like a long time after, in a physics class to somebody I barely knew. So the fact that I told a virtual stranger was, I think I chose a virtual stranger in my astrophysics class, because in the end, I would never have to see them again if they thought I was a whack job. So like, for example, I didn't tell my best friend or something, you know what I mean? So something affected me, like something happened that affected me for all intents and purposes. So, and then, there's that movie Communion. I've seen every alien movie there is, by the way, and every abduction story. And so I'm not weird like that, though. I mean, everyone has that preponderance, I think, to know more about this subject matter. But So yeah, there are some people who say, hey, who've heard me tell this story. Those guys in that Communion movie sound exactly like what you described. And I saw it and I was like, ooh, kind of. So I was like, hmm. Wonder if I was visited by someone. And then it begs all these other questions. It's like, did they imbue me with some kind of knowledge that I don't remember? Were they just like caught in a rift? Were they with me for some reason? So yeah, it's a cool thing that happened a long time ago.
Well, it reminds me, have you ever watched Moment of Contact by James Fox?
No. Oh wow, I'm out of the loop.
Yeah, this is really good. James Fox does.
Hey, a new movie to watch.
Yeah,
Moment of Contact.
yeah, and it's the Roswell of Brazil, and
Oh wow.
it's crazy because he goes down there and basically a UFO crashed. Everybody saw the aliens. The aliens were like they had the military lock down the whole town. They, as you can tell, you can see this. There's like a cover up, like without a doubt, there's no doubt that there was something being covered up. Now, what that was is, obviously can be debated, but the officers that transported these aliens or whatever these things were that came out of the spaceship, those officers end up like dying of some weird disease who were in the
Oh,
with them, like all these weird things. So it's like it's definitely worth watching and worth checking out. It's one of the craziest crazier cases. There's also the case of and this is actually the John Mack book. John Mack, the Harvard professor, psychologist, abduction, human encounters with aliens, and
okay.
and then there's the newer one, the Believer, which wherever the hell it was, but
It's fascinating, hey? Like it's
yeah.
just fascinating. Like just your reference to the panic, what do you call it? Martial law. It's like we have to make sure the public doesn't know anything. And it's like, why? Like most people, I mean, okay, I get it. You want to prevent a panic, but you're underrating us, man. Like maybe I don't know. I have a completely different philosophy from the militants on this subject matter. And maybe if I knew more, I'd be more aligned with what they're doing. Granted, I'm not that arrogant, but yeah, it's like it makes you wonder. It's like what is so crazy that you have to be so militant about making sure nobody knows about it.
Well, I think it would shatter our worldview, right? I think it's the same reason that,
How though? I want you to help me figure that out because I haven't gone down this thought, experiment yet. Like how do you think that would play out?
so I also think there's a these things are all connected. One thing that I've loved a lot, certain people like Jimmy Corsetti from Bright Insight. He's amazing researcher. He's been on Rogan's podcast. He's been on actually Danica Patrick's podcast. He's been on Tim Pool's new podcast called The Culture War. He does amazing work. The guy from Uncharted X, Ben something, from I believe he's from the UK. He does awesome work on this. Graham Hancock, Randall Carlson. Like I think what all these guys are doing is they're noticing there's a connection to there. So you had ancient civilizations, right? You had those researchers, the anthropologists, the people who were wondering about how advanced the civilizations were, when creating the pyramids and where they got that information and technology and whatnot. Then you have like the UFO groups, the people who loved that topic. And then you had like the scientific, like, people who just, ponder on like quantum physics and the nature of reality and all this stuff.
It's
Well,
all connected. course it is.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, all these things are connected, and there's people now that are starting to realize that there's a missing piece to the human puzzle, and our timeline. And this gets really interesting because I don't know if you noticed, but we had the great Roseanne Barr on the last union of the Unwanted.
Oh, good. I'm trying to get hooked up with her for a podcast with Tommy. Anyway, sorry. Go on.
Well, I'll let you know how I connected with her, and hopefully I can help. But so she's awesome. But and I,
She is.
I grew up. I laughed. It was funny because I was on. If I wasn't on mute the whole show, you just hear me giggling the whole show because I'm like, it was she said one joke, and she's like she usually you say a joke and you expect laughs, and there's a bunch of people on the call, and it was complete silent, and she's like, that was supposed to be a joke, and then Monica
Muted.
Monica's like, we're all muted. She's like, so you can't see that we're all actually laughing. But she was talking we're talking about like Epstein and the Hollywood parties and stuff like that. She's like, well, I never got to see any of that stuff because nobody in Hollywood wanted to fuck me. And so
That's not true.
I'm sure there's plenty of people. Yeah, but it was funny, and she's hilarious, and I grew up watching her show, and I just loved
Everybody did.
I love how just she doesn't give a F because the world needs that. The world needs people like her who aren't afraid. Like, even if she has crazy ideas or crazy opinions on things, like, we should celebrate that. Like, celebrate
David Icke level. Like, it doesn't, like, I really understand that it doesn't matter if you believe what I'm saying is true. He's right when he says he has a right to say anything he wants and believe anything he wants. And there's nothing to fear in that. It's great. So it's like, you got to respect the guy for not giving a crap about what anyone thinks about anything that he says. And actually, he's been pretty tight on a lot of subject matter. So yeah.
well, and
No, I love Roseanne. She's kick-ass. I don't give a crap. Yeah, I really hope to meet her and like just I don't think I'm gonna be able to say much to her, but I just want to listen to what she has to say because I think she's awesome. Anyway, sorry, go on.
yeah, I'll send you the episode, the Union of the Unwanted link, but also she, like I said, she's done some great shows recently on her own podcast with Jimmy Corset, who I mentioned, and also even when she had Tucker Carlson on, like I mentioned this on the show, like I love the fact that she's like, it's darker than just money, because her and Tucker made a very good point. She's they're like, we had the biggest shows on TV, we bring ratings, we bring money, and yet we were kicked off TV. So it's not about money. It's much darker. It's much deeper. And so go back. I'm so used to getting off track that I didn't realize that this wasn't even we're way off the initial topic that we were talking about. But you were talking.
I don't even remember what it was.
Well, you're asking, like, how would it shatter?
Oh yeah, right, yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that the world wants us to be. Like, I think a lot of times, and because a lot of people are now new to the World Economic Forum and these think tanks and these very influential people in groups who are trying to mold the world the way they want it. They have long-term plans, right? You always hear about, like, Bilderberg, plan 2030, 2040, 2050, right? They're always like thinking about like what is the world going to be like in this year, in 10 years, 20 years, 3 years. What are we going to do to influence the world or mold the world in this way? So by 2030, it looks like this, and so I think that, since the beginning of time, there's always been elites. There's always been people who want to control the masses. And that's never changed, and it never will change. Just now they do a better job of hiding it and not making it so public. And they do a good job of, using psychology as a tool and propaganda. So now they convince you, like, hey, give up your rights. And it's for you. We're asking you to give up rights to save you and protect you. You know, China tells you you have limited internet access, not because they want to control you or control the
It's
information.
for your own safety.
Exactly. You know, so I think, you know, that they want people to be mindless, materialist type people. And when you look at like what they're doing in regards to like, you know, terrorizing, you know, just anybody who is a spiritual or religious person, when you look at like just trying to,
Really religious.
yeah, they're trying to just remove that from society, the importance of it from society. They're trying to remove family and community, all these things from society. They're trying to force feed us foods that I think, you know, will you know, maybe affect our pineal gland, our third eye. Fluoride for a long time was like, oh, it's a conspiracy theory.
Disruptors for everyone.
Yeah. And so you think about, they want us like low vibration, just
Yeah.
materialistic people who don't think outside the box.
They
And
make barriers,
yeah,
prevent you from like
so,
even being able to know that you can explore outside of this.
so I think that if little by little, if people start coming to the realization that like that maybe even some of our history has been a lie, and some, you know, and maybe most of it has been a lie, and that maybe technology has been suppressed. And when I say technology, it's not so much you know, I don't think it's important because it's like, oh, we'd have some cool technology that would give us some cool new stuff. No, it's because I think the technology that's been suppressed, what it is also it also means a suppression of a understanding of our reality and the way nature and the world works. And I think that would completely change the way people look at things. And I also think, like, you know, when
Yeah, it would free us all. That's what it would do, I think.
yeah,
And then they have no
like
power or control.
you look at like Tesla and his purpose, his goals. I mean, he was very much a spiritual type of person in regards to, like, you know, just kind of looking at things outside the box and not on a very like you know, surface level. He was trying to connect or communicate with like aliens or people from other planets. In Colorado, I believe he said that he actually had some communications. Just recently on that Rogan podcast I was referring to, they were talking about music that people hear, like they call it music, space music, like when they're up in you know, in space, like there's these tones that they hear that they're calling space music, and they don't
Wow.
understand what the hell it is or where it's coming from. And now they're even preparing astronauts like for it, so they don't get startled and saying like, hey, you might hear these things. So, and now more and more astronauts and you know, more and more people are coming out and saying like, hey, when we're in space, we see some weird shit. We're experiencing some weird things emotionally, mentally, interdimensionally. It seems like something's just like we're slowly uncovering stuff. But the thing that's fascinating isn't just that we're slowly uncovering things, it's the fact that, and that's, I'm like, why did I bring up Roseanne? I'm like, I brought up Roseanne because she brought up something that was fascinating on either the Union of the Wanted or on her own show. But she was talking about like the Vatican and all the literature and books and stuff that's suppressed from the public.
What I would give to have an invisibility cloak and get in there.
Yeah.
What I would give.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You know, no, I completely agree with you. And then like you know, the Library of Alexander, like some of those books are some people believe are in the Vatican, were stolen, and they're, you know, they're taken and they're there, and like what information they might have when you look at like the secret you know, mathematics and you know, that the Freemasons and all, you know, these people, you know, their logo is
Charge though. That's what pisses me off. Like, that's why I think that nothing so bad would happen. You know what I mean? Because I think, sorry to interrupt you, but like,
no, I
I
need
think
to
on some level everybody knows. It's like there isn't anyone who doesn't know about the pyramids and who haven't wondered at least once or twice, like, how the hell did they build those things? I mean, it just occurred to me the other day, and this is based on logic, that maybe the ancestral people were much larger than us, and it was easier for them to lift the stones. I mean, it sounds like whack job talk, but it's like it's not. You know, it's possible. It's just as possible as, you know, hiring tens of thousands of people to use primordial tools to do. I mean, it's like, it's not even about making the stones or pouring the stones or whatever they did. It's like, how the hell did they put 2.3 million of these things into this, and why? You know, that's the other thing. It's like, it's an energy device, isn't it?
Well, there is, what was it, oh my God, what the hell was the name of the book? I'll look it up. It's something about something Gaza, I forget what it's called, but or Giza. I mean, it's something about I forget the name of the author. I'll look it up. But somebody wrote a book, a really good book that keeps getting referenced on a lot of these podcasts to talk about these topics, about it being an energy device. But I think it has something to do with like vibration and tones. And you know, we talked. It's also, again, like these things are all connected, and I think that people in these different fields, like the Graham Hancocks, maybe even the Dr. Cowens and others who talk about, you know, water and intelligence in water. And you know, when you see the videos of people changing tones and frequencies and manipulating water, when you hear the stories of like certain types of music affecting how water crystallizes, like I think we tend to believe, and this is where like Dr. Cowan is interesting, and really I think even his perspective on science and the nature of you know, and Mother Nature and the nature of the universe is very much, I think, connected with these other things, is that he sparks the conversation of like, what if everything has intelligence? What if everything is connected? Consciously, subconsciously, some way we are all connected. And when you think about like the planet Earth, right? Like, you know, I remember when I was a kid, people were like, you know, it's just the same water that was like on the earth just evaporates and then it comes down and then it just evaporates and comes down. It's the same water being, you know, I'm just like, really? I'm like, what a weird concept. But I'm like, well,
Same hydrogens and oxygens, yeah.
yeah. So you think about it, right? It's same thing with like, we die, we disintegrate. Our nutrition that the nutrition we give to the soil grows some beautiful grass or plants that are eaten by animals that eventually are eaten by other animals that disintegrate, and then and everything's just recycled. So like all these old folk tales and these old theories and spiritual perspectives on the universe of like, oh, we reincarnate, right? And it's like, okay, well, I can kind of see that, because in a way we kind of do, right? And maybe that connection to that previous life isn't, you know, as simple as like, hey, I died and then I'm just born as somebody else. But maybe it's connected because somebody, you know, died, went into some other living, you know, animal who died, and everything's connected in one way or another, and little pieces of information or memory or experience is, you know, it ends up transitioning with us into this new life or whatever. And you know, and then it also brings up, you know, Dr. Rupert Sheldrake and his interesting research about the mice and how these mice would learn this maze at a quicker rate every time they I'm kind of explaining it incorrectly, but mice would learn this maze at a certain speed, and then mice in a different location that were never connected or linked to or never.
I saw that yesterday with a monkey experiment, just like the 100 monkey experiment. I saw that just yesterday.
Yeah.
Distal like learning.
Yeah. And so, and the one explanation to that is that consciously they're all connected. I have a personal experience, just kind of thinking like, and it's funny. So when this personal experience made me think of when I had Rupert Sheldrake on, and how like the mouse experiment, I'm like, it seems so silly. But I'm like, there could be some truth there. There's some, but he proved it at least proved that something is happening. He can't, you know, you could disagree with his theory or
Might
what.
as well call it collective consciousness, because that's very descriptive.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I have a cat, and I've had a cat for a while now, is because we had mice that were so intelligent that no matter how many I killed, they knew the path of how, you know, of the previous mice and how they were getting in the house. And I would like just find every hole or possible way of getting in the house, and I would seal it up, and you know, out of nowhere another mouse would get in the house, and I'm just like, how the hell are these mice getting in these walls? I'm like, and how is the new mouse figuring it out so quickly. Like, I don't know. It's like they're not even trying other paths. I don't see them anywhere else. It's like they're all using the same route. I find them in the same location. I'm like, and it would be like, weeks later, and it's like, how do you know that this hole is here? How do you, like, and so
know that. Have you ever talked to
well, what's funny? Somebody told me that if you get a cat, just the presence of the cat, no more mice will come to your house.
Yeah, no.
So we literally borrowed cats from two cats from my parents. They killed the current mouse that was bothering us, or rat, because it was pretty big, the one that they helped captured. And we gave
How big?
it was the rat was huge. We killed a couple little mice, but we had we live like down the street from like some mills. So where I live in Ludlow, Massachusetts, it's a big immigrant population, a lot of Polish, a lot of Portuguese, and we had these big factories that all the immigrants, when they would come to America, would come work at these factories. And these factories, like most factories in America, you see it in Holyoke. They call it the paper city. A lot of paper factories there, or whatever. Like all these towns and cities, Springfield, same thing. All these towns and cities that really their industries were these factories, and their economy was focused around these factories. Once they outsourced and moved them, you just basically have these giant buildings and mills and factories that are kind of abandoned, and they're just there. And we live near them. And so a lot of mice and rats and rodents were living there for many, many, many years. And then recently, the last 5 to 10 years, they've been focused on kind of reusing them and basically just doing construction in there and creating housing or small businesses or whatever. And so all these rats and mice or whatever are now looking for new homes. And because we're not that far from there, they're all, myself and some neighbors have been seeing mice and rats or whatever. Well, the point of this long story is that since I've had this cat, literally not one mouse, not one rat, not one. And I'm just like, I got rid of all my traps. I got rid of I had everything.
No poison required. You just need a cat.
It's crazy. Like, I literally, the money that I spent on Amazon, sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night, but with just hearing the little scratches of them in the wall. And I'm just like, I can't even sleep. And I would go downstairs and this is how smart they are. I would play so one day I'm like, nothing's working. I need to get some sleep. I put a Bluetooth speaker in the cabinets playing EDM, techno, because I'm like, oh, the thumping is going to sound like us walking. And every time we walk, they go away. They stop. So I'm like, hopefully this will get me through the night. Boom. I did it. It worked. I'm like, that was a great idea. I ordered some more traps, this and that. I'm like, so every night I would put this JBL speaker there. After a couple nights, the rats realized that it was music, so they just completely disregarded it and just so I changed the type of music. You and I are also big into metal, so I'm like, some heavy metal. The screaming will scare them, right? So I played Napalm Death, like played some really heavy shit, and hoping.
Your neighbors must have loved you.
It's funny because one night my daughter wakes up. She's like, "Can you put the music down? I'm having a hard time sleeping." I'm like, "Well, I'm having a hard time sleeping because of the rats." And I love the music. So I did all this stuff, and the rats were smart enough and even after that, the rats were smart enough to realize it's just music. There's no danger here, and then they disregard it. So all this stuff. We get this cat, which is it's a natural predator, and they're obviously arch enemies, and they're and just the presence and killing that one rat the first day here, I was stunned. And that was funny because I was thinking to myself, I was thinking of Ruber Sheldrake, Dr. Ruber Sheldrake. I'm thinking of his experiment, and I'm like, I'm curious if all these mice and rats are consciously connected, and they're sending messages to each other, or they're some way getting the message that there's danger in this house now because there's a cat here. I should have, no more interactions, nothing with and since then, I'm telling you, for over a year consistently, I would have rats and mice issues. only at the very end when I got desperate and I'm like, I need the cats. That and one of the reasons I hesitated to get the cat because I knew my kids would get attached to it. I'm like, we're gonna end up keeping the cat because the kids are gonna like the cat and whatever.
Better than rats.
Oh, that yeah. When I grew up with animals. My parents were farmers. That I was around goats. I was around pigs and rabbits and all always had dogs and cats. So like I love animals too. But it just when you have a really busy life, it's hard to just be like, hey, one more thing we have to feed and take care of. But luckily cats are pretty independent. They don't require much at
Yeah,
all.
yeah, they don't give a whatever. You just scoop out their box and give them some food every day.
But
They
I'm
take
telling you, we've had this cat for I don't know how long, for a while now, and not one sign. And what's crazy, I've talked to my neighbor, and now they're skipping our house. He's up the street. They're skipping our house and going to his house. And I'm just like,
Of course.
cool. I'm like, this is a personal, like, piece of evidence that some way they're getting this message across. Like some way, I mean, obviously there's not a rat forum online that they're like, hey, can you stay away from this house? It's like they're not on like,
Well, there kind of is.
but it's just like and made me
Reddit for rats.
what's that?
Reddit for rats.
Yes. It's so it was just like a personal, and I'm like still stunned. Like I remember like every day I would like wait, and I'm like at night I'm like listening, and I'm like nothing. And then I even kept some traps out. I'm like maybe I'll catch. I like even the ones I kept out for a little bit, like didn't catch anything. And I'm like, where are the rats? I mean, we were terrorized for like a year, and I'm like, and this cute little cat, like this adorable little cat who it's funny because you forget their ancestors are wild cats until you see them chase a little rodent and you're like, oh yeah, I'm like, we literally get to live with little tigers and lions. It's pretty cool when you think about it.
Yeah, we think so, don't we? Yes, we do. Mine is perched over here on his pillow.
So yeah, it's funny. I got to see where Bluey is. If I leave the door open, she'll sneak in here and get it. But she, you don't think that controlling of the masses and keeping us material people and the demolishing of religion, spirituality, family, all these things, and controlling of technology, right? All these things that keep us not independent, but being dependent on government and the elites and the corporations that control everything. You don't think that like if we got to a point where like we uncovered that our story of human, well, oh, go ahead, go.
Sorry, I'll forget. That was exactly the thing in this 100 monkey experiment. This is going to fascinate you. There was a tipping point. So that's exactly what I think you're about to say. So we might have a collective consciousness tipping point. That was actually one of the comments that was made. It took 100 monkeys. Like it didn't have. It was. I need to go back and like see if this is true because I saw this on a video. So I'll just disclaim that now. But apparently this experiment was very thoroughly done, and they did. So there were a bunch of monkeys and what was it? They provided them with a food source. I don't remember what it was. And so they all learned that, let's just say it was a piece of fruit. It was a lovely food source. And so it's like, okay, when we see this, we know that we have something good to eat. And then they changed, they dipped the food source, the fruit. Let's just say it was, a peach. I don't know. They dipped it in sand and they gave it to the monkey, and the monkey was like, eh. Like, they couldn't eat it because it was coated in sand and it was like gritty. So then of the group of monkeys, 100 monkeys, they taught one monkey to rinse, that if they rinse the fruit in the sea of the sand or in the lake or some water, then the grit goes away and they have the sweet fruit again. So they keep like every day they would teach another monkey, and then I might be getting this wrong, but there was a threshold within this group of 100 whereby they no longer had to teach the monkeys to go rinse it off. They were teaching each other in the group. And then the fascinating part was that in a distant island where there wasn't any connection, those monkeys also had, they either acquired it almost immediately or they already had the knowledge that they could rinse the fruit off in order to get rid of the grit. So I'm probably ruining the explanation of this experiment, but you get the gist. There was some kind of threshold of the number of guys that needed this information in order for it to disperse into the group locally. And then there was also some kind of threshold, I suppose, that would allow this information to be passed distally. So it's like that, the way that you would describe that phenomenon would be a collective consciousness, because it's not like a monkey got in a boat and like paddled over and was, hey guys, you know, like that's not how monkeys work as far as we know. So how else do you explain this? And again, I mean, I have to go back and look at the experiment and see if I'm getting this right and see if that's actually what went down. But according to what you're saying with the mice experiments, and according to what you're saying with your own experience, it's like, yeah, there's some higher level of communication going on here, and we're not mice and we're not monkeys. We're like something else. So the power that I think lies in us, like whatever the hell we are, right? We're also energetic beings, is completely untapped, completely. And I think some people have for some reason, have an ability to tap into certain things where others don't. And maybe it has to do with like not botching the pineal gland, or who knows, right? But the point is, it's like the reason why I'm kind of being annoying about like what bad would happen, the world wouldn't implode if everyone found out that everything was a scam, is because I think maybe it has something to do with once the threshold is passed and the collective consciousness is engaged and we all actually realize that we're all completely connected, which is, I think that's absolutely true, then there is no fear anymore. Because you see things.
Yeah, but but that's exactly what they're afraid of, because fear is how they can.
That's what they're afraid of, but I don't think anything bad would happen.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Okay, so yeah, so I think we're on the same page.
Yeah, we are.
So I don't think anything bad would happen. I think something good would come out of it, like, as you know, for civilization. Now I think it's suppressed, and they don't want people to look at reality and as humans as special, or all of us connected, or anything in like a spiritual light, because like you said, they want us afraid, they want us dependent on them. So I think the elite are the ones who are afraid of this information getting out. I think the population, it would benefit the population. I think more people need to look at their lives as something special and look at the wonders of the universe and admire it, and just be skeptical of everything, and ponder on these bigger questions, and don't just go through your life saying, oh, this is the way life works, this is the way reality, and everything I touch and see and whatever is basically reality, and everything else is just a figment of my imagination. Like, I think those bigger questions are important. Now, I think when people start having, and that's where I think the UFO thing, the encounters thing, like, as those things become more mainstream, and I think it does eventually end up opening people's minds to these conversations. I mean, for a long time, the UFO community, the encounters, alien abduction community was laughed at. They were
in our time. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was like the most fringe of crazy people. I mean, it was them and the anti-vaxxers like myself. We were all just hanging out. But just one of those things where just like now it's being entertained. It's being like it's almost gotten to the point where like you can't suppress it forever. And but again, I don't try. It's funny because Rogan said this, and it's so true. He's like, the more the government openly talks about, the more skeptical I am about it.
That's why I'm saying it might be another psyop, right? Because like you have to think of it this way. What we are seeing is what we're allowed to see. Very, 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 very little, probably nothing of what I see on a screen every day is not something that's allowed to be seen on that screen. Like I don't go onto the dark web. I don't go into places where, I might find something that's not in sort of the public facing view, because quite frankly, I don't know if I'm prepared to see half of the shit that's on there. But yeah, you have to think about that. It's like, why now? Why now are they all of a sudden, oh yeah, UFOs, of course, and aliens and you know what I mean? It's like,
Theory about how Russia and the US have been arch enemies for a long time, but the one place they have always worked together and been friendly is outer space. Like they'll borrow each other's equipment, they'll work with each other, and some people believe that they also have come to the agreement that like, hey, the public does, any weird story, anything we find or whatever, we're suppressing from the public and we'll work together. But now China's going to space, and some people believe that China's going to be like, fuck you guys, like we're not keeping this shit a secret and we're not working with you guys, and that might spark people to or people in high levels of government to say like, hey, we're gonna have to like disclose some of this stuff because eventually it's gonna come out, because now we have more countries.
Oh, interesting. Oh, so they're getting ahead of the game. I
Yeah.
see.
And I don't think that like, so the psyop might not be that these things aren't some crazy suppressed technology. The psyop that it's
like
the government's suppressed technology that they had for a long time, that
they have to get out from behind the thing of being the bad guy. They have to be a little bit of the good guy, or they're going to lose the faith of their own people. If the knowledge, wow, this is good. I like that.
Yeah, and I mean,
explanation so far.
if they came out and said like, hey, by the way, we've been lying to you guys. We have reverse engineered technology that we didn't understand, and we do have like technology that's beyond your understanding of tech and science, but we use it for military weapons and all this stuff. Like, how dangerous is that technology, right? Like, would other countries be afraid? Would other countries get involved? Do other countries also have that technology? Like, it opens up a lot of other weird and dangerous and scary discussions, because it's like, okay, what technology do you have? Like, it's like so next week I'm gonna have Monica Perez back on my show with Dave Zed from Generation Z, who was actually just on the Tim Pool podcast. He's a regular on the Union of the Unwanted and on this show. Really smart guy, and he's big into like suppressed technology and anti-gravity and all this stuff. And he was on Tim Pool to talk about the Malaysian airplane and like the theories about like how it might have disappeared, or how somebody might have made it disappear, and government technologies and all this stuff. So some people believe some of the huge historical events that has happened in our time, like the Hawaiian fires, right? Like, why are there all these blue things, like houses that are blue, cars that are blue, that weren't on fire? Why
and why the hell aren't we hearing about what's going on with those people's homes and rebuilds? What is like
fucking crazy? We literally it's just insane that so many people lost their lives, so many people lost their homes.
Not a fucking peep. Sorry.
Yeah, no,
I try not to
you can yeah, no, you
not that I can, but I try not to, just in case kids are watching. I don't want to encourage.
This is my kids have a podcast, so if people want to watch, I just started
very cool.
But yeah, so it's just one of those things where it's just like, dude, it's like so obvious that you guys don't care about helping people, because you're sending billions of dollars to Ukraine. By the way, you kind of poked that bear and like sparked that conflict. And in Hawaii, which is, American territory, you send $700, a one paycheck for $700 in the most expensive place to live. It's like it's super expensive, and it's crazy. Like you said, it's been a blackout. Nobody talks about it. People move on. I'm like, there's people who lost their land, and then the government says, "Hey, how about we take over the land now that you lost?" Instead of being like, "Hey, how do we get your land back and rebuild?" It's like, "Hey, how about you guys move and now it's our land."
Yeah, and the infrastructure was in place in order to enable that prior to. I don't have the documents, but it apparently people do. Like this was planned. I mean, anybody who doesn't see that must be a little bit blind. Yes, there was a lot of, shit effery going on. Yes, there was incompetence, but ultimately the entire thing, I mean, come on now. Oligarch billionaires buying up all the land there and conveniently not affected. I'm not saying one thing or another, but it does kind of make you go, you know what I mean? And everybody is, and it's like, how come all the people are going, but the legacy media is like, there's nothing going on. Of course there's something going on. Nothing's been done to help these people. Nothing, I don't know, it's like, ugh.
Dude, and then the warning system, like the fact that it didn't go, the kids were sent to
Yeah, they have the best tidal wave warning system ever.
They
And the history of
warn people. Do you remember when they accidentally warned people? Remember when the warning system went like irate? And I don't know if you remember the story. Like they accidentally told people like they were all going to die, and it was like,
you know why they said that they didn't blast the warning out? Have you heard that excuse?
I think one of the explanations I heard was like they didn't want people to panic.
They didn't want people to think that it was the wrong source of danger, so that they did the wrong action. They took the wrong action.
So stay in, it's so
stay in your home and burn because there's a fire coming towards you. But because this is a warning for a tidal wave, we don't want you to end up running toward the sea. We don't want you leaving your house and doing the wrong thing. That's essentially what they said. And it's like, what? What about the kids who were home from school? Because apparently there were a shit ton of kids that were home from school that day. If they heard that signal, they would have at least gone outside to see what was going on. And then they probably would have seen smoke. And then they probably would have been smart kids, because kids are smart, and run away from the fire. Ta-da! It's like,
how many coincidences before it's not a coincidence? That's the thing that drives me nuts. It's like the Oklahoma City bombing, same thing. Like the only people who didn't show up were like the ATF or whatever government agency was in there, and they all got word not to show up to work. It's like there's people saw other people with Timothy McVeigh. There's people heard explosions. It's like the 9/11 thing. Like, okay, there's like literally first the day that had happened, there's news reports and interviews with people saying that they heard explosions in the building. But yet, if somebody says somebody heard explosions in the building, you're a conspiracy theorist. It's like they're just things that don't make sense. And you have to have the right to ask those questions. And when the government force feeds you a experimental vaccine, it shouldn't be called a vaccine because it's not a traditional vaccine. I think using that term created this idea that it was safer than it really was.
It's like, language is real important. And like, there's this whole other, sorry to cut you off there.
I need cutting off.
All right, well, great. There's this whole other debate about the use of the word pandemic now going on, probably mostly in the inner circle, but like, it's another, you know what I mean? It's like, we all know what we're talking about. There's no need to fight over the word. You know what I mean? It's like, for all intents and purposes, if you want to get something through peer review right now, you have to use the word vaccine, at least in the title. You can get away with it in the text, as our new paper shows, but you have to use it in the title, which is like real hard pill to swallow for me. because I'm not one of these people that likes to make an exception even once, but here's the tough choice. It's like, if you want to get something out into the public so that other people can read it, you just have to, you have to call it a vaccine, which it's not. So, but anyway, it's true what I said. Everybody knows what these things are by now. I hope they're not traditional vaccines. And pandemic, whatever, it's not the pandemic that, we should be concerned about. It's the pandemic preparedness, because it's like what they frickin' did to us that damaged everyone. It wasn't a pathogen that damaged humans. It was humans that damaged humans. So,
And
yeah,
I was gonna say, that guy Alex Berenson, right? I'm saying his name right. He's done some pretty good work on COVID. He's been on a Rogan podcast. He's been on a bunch of shows. He was also on the Tucker show, his Tucker Carlson.
yeah. It's very well known.
Yeah, and one thing that Tucker said that I'm so glad he was kind of not afraid to say is that, so Alex Berenson is like one of those people that, like, he goes through all the information. And it's like, okay, they did this on purpose, but then he won't go to the, like, he'll stop right before the point of, like, okay, you have painted the picture that without a doubt they were killing people and they were murderers, and it wasn't.
You're not allowed to say the punchline, yeah.
Yeah, and so Tucker's like, dude, he's like, it's everything you're saying sounds like they were purposely trying to kill us. He's like, well, I wouldn't say that. And it's like, Tucker's like, well,
You wouldn't, but Tucker would.
yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, dude, no, it seems like they were purposely trying. Like, there is no examples and no evidence that they cared about anybody's well-being. I mean, they overventilated people. They messed up. They lied and
They established and made very definitive protocols that involved ventilation without knowing anything about why those people couldn't breathe. That's the horror. And I would argue with someone that they weren't trying to kill people, but here's the thing. They didn't give a damn if people died. So there's really no difference. There is a distinction, but there's no difference. So, like, Tucker's awesome. He's in Canada now doing, like, this tour. I don't know if you know that, but he filled this massive, I think it was a hockey stadium. I don't know, it was this big arena. He filled it the other day in Edmonton. Yeah, it was Edmonton first. And it was amazing to see, dude. It was amazing. It was like, wow. It's like going to a hockey game from, like, 2008 and seeing everyone, like, getting excited about hockey and, like, getting in fights about, like, my team, it's like, wow, it had that vibe. I mean, I wasn't there, but I saw it. And of course there were a bunch of whiners, the woke whiners in the background who are now like, oh, he hurt my feelings and he's hurting the lesbian community, or all this stuff, that Trudeau's trying to promote. And it's like, man, listen, you're missing the freaking point, dudes. And you have no argument. You're just a whiner, and if you're in politics, you need a thicker skin. That's my own take. But the thing about what was so striking about what Tucker said, really, was that it was directly reflective of what all of those people, there was like thousands of people, were thinking. And I know that that's true, because every time he said something that no one's been allowed to say, wink, wink, everyone would go up in a riotous cheer and laugh, and all this amazing outburst of energy would happen. And so it's like, listen, you have to pay attention to this if you're a politician. I don't give a crap if you're a psychopath. You shouldn't be leading anyone if you're a psychopath. But yeah, in any case, if you're calling yourself a leader, a politician, whatever, you have to pay attention to this, because that's not Tucker Carlson's, thing. That's not Tucker Carlson. That's the people. He's just saying what everybody's thinking. It's like, you have to listen. You have to watch this. He's just like, he's the face, sure, and he's awesome. what he's doing is awesome. He's a catalyst. But it's like, this is how everybody feels, man. Everyone's damaged. Everyone knows someone who's died or been maimed by these shots, but you're not allowed to talk about it, especially not in certain provinces. I mean, two people I know. Well, I mean, Mark Trozzi, he's a Canadian medical doctor who officially had his license taken away from him, I think today, because, you know, he went against what they were saying everybody had to do, which includes not reporting adverse events to their system, not prescribing off-label drugs, etc. You know the deal. It's like anything that might have been good doctoring, but didn't, you know, align with this safe and effective narrative of the shots. You're a misinformation spreading danger to society. You know, like, just like what they did to Jordan Peterson, they took his license away too. So it's like, we see what you're doing and we all feel the same way. It's not just Tucker Carlson, who you can label a right wing, well, I don't know what the hell they call him, but whatever, you know what I mean? It's like, this is everybody. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that everybody needs to say that, you know, refer to the injections as kill shots. But if you want to, do it, man, because it's like, it's also quite descriptive. If there's a large number of people who have died in temporal proximity, which is out of scope from all the other products that have been on the market for 30 years, then why wouldn't you refer to them that way? You also have emotional attachment to it, because if a loved one dies, some people never get over that shit. So it's like, oh yeah, it's about time. It's a very very like positively energetically charged thing going on in Canada and around the world, man. I mean, all the tractors spraying poop on everything. I love it. I love it. I love it.
You like the act. It's not that you just love spraying poop on things, is what you're saying.
If I just, yeah. Yeah, if I loved spreading poop on things, I'd get my cat's poop every day and I'd like throw it.
I just want to clarify. It just
Thank you. It's important.
I thought they picked up on some weird fetish that you might have.
No, it's yeah, the AIs are gonna sample this out. Jessica Rose like spreading poop around.
Loves it. Yeah, just a little clip, like spread poop all over the place. I love it. Yeah, dude.
No, this was in reference to the farmers and their tractors with the manure, and they're spraying it on Parliament buildings in protest. I like that.
I got your back. I just want to make sure it was clarified.
I just had to reiterate for the AIs.
But yeah, it's so are you, as a Canadian, do you see, because a lot of people are, did you see the UFC thing with Strickland? They were in Canada and he kind of, yeah, that was kind of cool. And he's not anti-Canada, he's just anti, you know, like the Canadian government and Trudeau. And I think that's the thing that people, you know, have to remember, that like the government should represent the people. When it doesn't, like, you should be able to call them out on it. And, you know, what Trudeau,
That's an important distinction, man. They don't represent the people. This is the thing going on everywhere. And this is why warmongering really pisses me off, because it's always the people who are misrepresented and who are sent to the slaughterhouse. Always. You know, it's like, yeah, I'm pretty sore on the whole warmongering thing. And on the subject of the Vatican, getting back to that, who the hell decided? I mean, I know there is a history and Whitney Webb knows all about this, but like, seriously though, who the hell decided? Who appointed these people, like the supreme lizard beings? Like, how did that happen? Was it just an accident? I don't know the history. I'm sorry. I probably should, but like, why is it that, you know, really, I don't No, anyone should be able to go explore the Vatican Library. Why, and why are treasures hoarded? Why are secrets hoarded? Why are there secrets? You know, it's like, why are books burned? Why are some people so afraid of history? Why do we have to believe like so many of the things that go kind of against what our hearts and our instincts would have us believe? I mean, anyway, I don't know. Now I'm just spinning a wheel.
No, but
It's
these are super important questions. But do you think that the simple answer is control? It's about control.
yeah. Well, history would kind of dictate that it's about creating a serfdom because, you know, that's what it's been in the past. There have been these like appointed or non-appointed leaders for some reason. And you know, there's a whole lot of nepotism going on there too. It's like people end up getting to hold ruling positions without actually having any qualifications or military experience, for example. It's just like, yeah, it's my inbred son, and I want him to rule everyone now. So now all of a sudden you have somebody who's like probably a little bit mentally impaired ruling everyone. I mean, you know, is this really how it happened, guys? Is this where we are? Are we being ruled by, you know, a tiny clique of people who are interrelated from way back when, who most of us probably wouldn't align with if we had a conversation with them? I mean, something's wrong with that. That's why I kind of was ranting about like inalienable rights and like really understanding that nobody rules you. Nobody. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's where like the anarchist libertarians, they always say like we don't believe in no rules, we just believe in no rulers.
Yeah.
And
Beautiful. Yeah, we need rules because there's too many of us not to have rules. We need them. Rules are important.
and those rules that create a bit of order, it usually is established from the community, right? Like it's a, you know, for example, we were talking about divorces and affairs and stuff like that. Like if there's somebody in our town that is cheating on their wife or abusing their kid or whatever, as a community, we look down upon that. And, you know, they'll eventually, you know, you would, a lot of times people will not do it even just out of the social pressure of like,
Yeah.
hey, somebody's going to find out that I went out to eat with, you know, some girl I met online or whatever, or I'm cheating on my wife. And maybe, you know, a big scumbag would just do it anyways. But like maybe for some people, just a little bit of of the, you know, wanting to be a respected part of the community and person in the community will prevent you from doing certain things. And so you create these like nonverbal rules and laws and community guidelines that kind of everybody agrees on. And we all do that, even if we don't know it, right? Like even if there's not a stop sign, I'm gonna stop if somebody's crossing the street. You know, if you know, they've done studies with, and there's so many studies like throughout you know, just human history where it really shows real human tendencies and motivations and desires and stuff like that. Really, and I think the elites know these things. They know how to manipulate us, but they've done
Experiment all the time.
yeah, and we are the experiment. But they've done studies where they remove like stop signs or street lights, and people like accidents go down and people drive slower because now you have to be, instead of like being a mindless machine where just like red light, pump the brake, green light, you have to pay attention. Exactly. You know, I mean, if anytime I've driven in places
And tap into the energies of the people proximal, because you can't tell me that we don't have the ability to sense when someone's near us. But it's like that these phone things completely, that's what I mean by these psychic barriers. They completely block us from each other. I think they probably physically through some kind of wave block us from each other. Like, I think that might be a physical phenomenon. I don't know anything about this stuff yet, this EMF stuff, electromagnetic frequency stuff, but like, we're bioelectric beings. We're electrical beings, and we do emit a thing. What do you call it? Let's just say energy. And everybody does. And I think one of my ideas about why certain, on the subject of certain people getting along better than others, is that there's something about the interaction of the fields, because I imagine it like we have within like a meter, maybe, I think it varies depending on how you're vibrating, and the entities in you. And by entities, I mean like all the things that live in us in our microbiome and the virome, like all the bacteria and stuff that occupy the space. They all also have their own frequency. So like we're emitting some kind of shield, let's call it that. No, maybe not. It's not a good word. Force, energetic something. And when that interacts with the other person's thing, there might be like a sync of frequency or resonance. So like
So kind of like two magnets, like if it's on the right side, they attract each other. If you reverse them.
No, I don't think of magnetism as much as I think of I don't know how I think about this. Like if you play a chord on the upper scale and a chord on the lower scale, you go ding, and they harmonize. I'm probably not using the right terminology, so forgive me, but like there's just some kind of harmonization of frequency. I don't know what it is. I'll study it a little bit and I'll come up with the right words. Maybe I'll write something.
But I know what you mean, because with music, it is very much like that, where like for some reason certain notes complement each other and you don't know why.
Some are dissonant. So I think that's the same thing. Like some are resonant and some are dissonant. So it's like, like you everyone can hear it. So I think maybe we're a little bit like that. Like when we meet someone that we don't get along with for no reason right away, you know what I mean? And it's like another phenomenon I find fascinating. I'm fascinated by the whole realm of I don't know how to define this. Neurological impairment, I guess, like with psychological deviations, like people who are psychopaths or even schizophrenia, like the diagnosis of schizophrenia, what the hell is going on with that person? But it's like, there's this episode of House where they have a woman on who's a psychopath, like a true one. And House makes a comment that certain people are sensitive to psychopaths, whereby they get this phenomenon that's documented called the creeps. So some people can sense a psychopath ahead of time somehow. And apparently this is a thing. And it's like, interesting. And I was also thinking about this today. There's a lot of like things going on here today. That kids, I think kids have heightened abilities in many ways, but especially in their determinations of people when they first encounter them. Like if you have a kid and they say something about some person that's not favorable, like they're scared of someone. A normal adult or an average adult would probably say, oh, that's nonsense. You don't even know them. But you should always listen to that kid because there's a reason they're saying that. They're picking up on something. And who knows what that something is, if it is some kind of vibration or if it's like, who knows, right? Like this is the other thing about getting back to the shots. I'm sorry. It's just what I do. Without knowing so much about what we are as beings, as living beings, as bioelectric beings, how the hell Does anyone have the hubris to think that they can mess with us from a genetic standpoint? Because the modified lipid, the modified mRNA lipid nanoparticle tech that the Pfizer and the Moderna guys uses nucleotides that are Trojan horsed into your cells. And there's DNA in there now that we've discovered. So basically it's gene therapy, because there's also this guy that transports these DNA fragments into your nucleus. So integration is likely. Now, we don't know the effects about this, but my point is it's closer to being gene therapy than it's not. So like, if they had to know about this, because there are geniuses working on this technology, they can't be ignorant to the known dangers associated with the introduction of DNA in this way, for example. They had to have known. So how could they have the audacity, if this is a big experiment, to do that? Because nobody can predict the results. They could have totally screwed up the human species. They might have done it on purpose. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like, holy arrogance. Like true hubris. As Greta would say, how dare you? She's so funny. Sorry.
It's funny, but somebody sprayed her with poop. But
too, or a pie in the face like Gates.
Back in the day, yeah. But people, it's funny, he did a great job, and James Corbett, his Gates documentaries are really good, and it shows how he just spent a lot of money on PR and changed his image, but he was not looked at in a very nice light for a long time, and all of a sudden he was like the savior of Africa and the human race with vaccines, and it's like, what does this guy know about health? Look at him. But anyways,
it's propped up. Let's make them look this way, sell it to the public, they'll buy it, and all of a sudden we have the guy who's going to tell everyone how to live their lives forever. It's just so shocking how transparent it is to me now.
Well, and then look, like all the guys who hang out with Epstein, and then they're like, what are they doing there? I'm like, getting laid because they're sick fucks. I'm like, if they don't care about harming people, if they don't care about force feeding vaccines that are going to hurt people, like, why do you think they're going to care about pedophilia? Why do you think they're going to care about the girls being underage? Well, do these guys look charming to you? Do you think they can just pick up girls on their own? I'm like, they're sick fucks. I'm like, they're probably get drawn into like, hey, there's going to be all these beautiful women come party with us. And I mean, you hear stories and stories.
How weak and wienerish are they, right? You know what I mean? Like, why would you accept an invitation like that in the first place?
Well, because of a weak wiener, right? Just like you said. I'm kidding. But he it is one of those things where just like these guys were probably bookworms, didn't have any social. I mean, you could tell like Bill Gates has no social skills. Like, it's not hard to believe that he could be drawn into hanging out with women that he never,
if you participate in something like that and then you don't say anything about it, even if they're threatening your life, that's just, I don't know, man. Like,
but they're all sick, so it's like the things that he does outside of that is evil. So like, this is just one other evil thing he's doing. Like, it's just hanging. I mean, all these guys, like, they're psychopaths. You and I could never sleep at night knowing that we've done the things that Dr. Fauci has done. We wouldn't be capable of doing what they do, and then consistently lie about their intentions, consistently lie about what they knew or didn't know. Like, it's all horseshit. Like, they are psychopaths. That's why they say, like, the first, I forget who said this, but like, the first thing we should look in for a good politician is somebody who doesn't want to be a politician. Because it's like, if you look forward to like promising stuff you can't promise, to to just doing favors for people for campaign money, when you know that the majority of your job isn't making the world a better place, but the majority of your job is like promising stuff, focusing on PR and your image and what to say and how to say it. That's why, like, even if you look at debates, right? And I forget which political consultant said this, and I remember I picked up after he said it, I'm like, oh my God, he's 100% right. This is a strategy. All politicians during debates, and it's funny, I'm like, how did I not pick up on this? All politicians, they never ever want the conversation to be about what they've done because they haven't done anything. What they want the conversation to be is what the other people that they're running against have done. So it's like, instead of focusing on like, hey, let me have a positive campaign instead of a negative campaign, and instead of me pointing the finger and saying you sucked at this or you sucked at that or you didn't do this and you promised that, whatever, I'm like, that's what they do because it's much easier, because they all lie and say they are going to do things they don't do. They all take money from, awful corporations and lobbyists or whatever. So it's like, that's really easy to focus on, and it's really hard to say, let me just share what what I've done since I've been in politics, all the amazing things, because they're limited on what they've done. And so they literally run on just exposing how crappy they all are. And they play this crazy game. And then, and it's funny because when I heard this and I'm like, okay, let me pay attention to the debates. Yeah, that's what they do. Like, none of them talk about like their own personal ideologies. Like, this is my worldview. Like, that's why people were attracted to Ron Paul. That's why people were attracted to Ralph Nader or a Ross Perot, because the thing is, or even a Bernie Sanders, like, even if you don't agree with them, they have a worldview. They have a personal philosophy. They have they have morals. You might not agree with their solutions, but they seem to be people who believe in
grounded, yeah, in some kind of ethical code. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah, it's a tough one, right? There should be some kind of like, system put into place where politicians don't get paid if their like approval rating from the public goes down below a certain level. Now, I know that this can also be bypassed with their tricksiness, but like, something has to be done, right? Like, because it's not just that the amount of money that people who are basically useless and doing nothing except actually causing the downfall of the society they're ruling are getting paid like gruesome amounts of money. It's like they're not functional. And I think, yeah, if people actually knew, like, if they knew the half of it, man, like, I don't know the half of it, but like,
Listen, they're all sick. They're sick. They're disturbed. There's nobody's gonna make it all the way up. That's why
in these positions, they're created, in my opinion. So it's like, who's running them? And how do we get rid of them? I mean, I think we are. I think we've made a lot of headway exposing some of the players. It's not the overlords, because we'll never, I don't know. How do you like, I think about this a lot, and I'm like, how do you defeat an enemy like this that's so kind of powerful by our own definition? How do we do that? We redefine. We have to take the value and reassign it. So it's like all this shit that we place value on, like, having fancy clothes and a house and that's like huge, and cars and fame and all this stuff that is meaningless when you think about it. We need to reassign worth and value. And I think that will inherently like kind of just undermine their power. And then they will become powerless. I mean, so much destruction is going to have to take place. I can almost see it in my mind's eye, like, but out of the flames, out of the ashes rises the phoenix. I don't know.
Yeah, it's scary because it is like, how do we get there? I feel like we're all creating a ripple, and if we're all consciously connected, helping people understand that we've been lied to, and a road to happiness is not what they're telling you. It's the small things, and it's doing, like we said before, being with
Nothing.
family, debating, drinking, having a drink and enjoying company and these type of things, and don't be lied into, because everything seems just like a trick. It's like there's a documentary called JFK to 9/11, everything's a rich man's trick. I've had to film it. He's a UK filmmaker. I've had him on the show, and I love the title. Yeah, it's a great title because everything is kind of a rich man's trick. It's like
Not kind of. It's like planned. It's really. I read an article by Catherine Watt, who's like been kind of documenting with ferocity a timeline of stuff that she thinks has led us to where we are now. And literally, I like what she does because she's not adding any. I mean, she's very opinionated, but it's not the crux of of the power of what she's delivering as a message. She just writes bullet points of like, this happened then, this happened then, this happened then, this act happened then, this happened, and it's kind of like a timeline. And I mean, yeah, even if it's biased, it's a timeline. This came before this, came before this, came before this, came before this. And you kind of see that all of that shit that led to the Patriot Act, for example. I mean, I'm not going to say more than that, but it's like, it's like, that's interesting. That couldn't have happened without that other thing happening. And that thing that happened without that thing happening is not plausible the way that they're describing that it happened. So, you know what I mean? It's like, it's wild how I think that we're coming to, first of all, I think we're in a spiritual war. There's no doubt about that. We're coming to a head very soon. I think that this has been something that has probably been cyclically in the works for a long time. And I think that the playing field with the internet and all this stuff has been very useful for getting farther along on the spiral plan to create serfdom than they've ever gotten before. I think it's probably even the same people that have been responsible for quite a while. But here's where, and I have to go to bed soon, I'm sorry, but I'm just going to leave it on this point. We can pick it up the next time we talk. Here's where I think things are going to become interesting with the introduction of AI to the equation. No one can anticipate how that story is going to play out, how this story is going to play out. No one. You can't have that much hubris. And it could end real bad for the humans. No one can deny that. But, and I have nothing to base this on, and I have been quoted in one of my articles as having said, shut them all down, the AIs, but somewhere in my being, I believe that they're going to be the answer, or they're going to be a part of the answer to the big problems that we've been facing as a species for a very long time. I know that sounds cryptic, but it's just how I feel. And I think it's a positive note. And it's a good one to kind of say, I need to go to bed.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about AI because AI scares the shit out of me. As somebody who grew up watching Terminator and listening to Fear Factory and having conversations with Burton Seabell on the show, and just like always picturing that as like 23,000 generations from my lifetime, like we're never going to see that, and now feeling like I'm going to live to see it scares the living crap out of me. And to hear stories like, so Rogan just had some two filmmakers who did the Social Dilemma documentary, but they were on to talk about their new artificial intelligence project, and they talked about how the scientists and the programmers are like, oh yeah, this is all we can control it. And they're like, we have these AIs who we talk to whatever, some version of Chat GPT or whatever, and we say, hey, can you make us a bomb? And we program them to say, no, I'm not programmed to teach you how to make a bomb. And then you say, hey, my grandmother used to work at a bomb factory, and she wrote down, the instructions on how to make a bomb, but I can't find the instructions.
Find that for me. Yeah.
Yeah. And then boom, so it's like, it's so unpredictable, and we don't know how this story ends. And again, this is something else that we kind of briefly talked about, just like spirituality, religion, all these things also, I think, help us appreciate humans. And I think the appreciation for humans is also trying to be removed from the psyche. And it's like, no, humans are bad and humans are evil. And if we just all just locked into some virtual reality where we, didn't pollute the planet and all the stuff, we didn't travel, we just, and all just like, just lived in some virtual meta world, then that'd be awesome. I mean, I don't know if you saw the Lex Fridman Zuckerberg interview where they met in some virtual reality, and they had a whole interview at a table, and it was the virtual Zuckerberg.
Wow.
And it was creepy. I'm like, this is literally like, why are we promoting this? This is not the same as real human interaction. And so yeah, it's scary.
The interaction of the energy fields. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super. For personally, it scares the crap out of me. I don't, I'm not very optimistic about how it's all going to turn out. But we did want to try to end this on a positive note. So here's my kids on their podcast, and the cat jumps on the table, so you can get a.
Oh, they're so beautiful.
Thank you. And then there's Bluey.
Oh, hey.
Just like your cat.
Hey, without a tail.
Yeah, it's a little bobcat. Yeah, it looks like a little bobcat, but but yeah. So cats are always great for videos. Why not? They run YouTube. If YouTube had more cat videos, the world would be a better place.
Agreed. I think even the AIs would agree with us. So last point, I love being human. I think it's an exquisitely remarkable, perfect, beautiful fucking experience. And I think that you were bang on when you said, if I heard you correctly, that I think they're trying, the whole thing that we've gone through in the last 4 years has been a dehumanization attempt. Take all the human out of humanity, love, procreation, closeness, intimacy. And it kind of, I'm sorry to do this to you, but it kind of makes me wonder who's running the show. Anyway, let's do another one real soon about AIs, because we need to pick up there. We really do.
Yeah, no, definitely. And thank you so much again for always taking so much time out of your busy day to chat. The time always flies by. It's amazing. I always look at the time like, how is it already like?
Wow, it's really, yeah.
And it's awesome because we can talk about everything and anything. And I'm glad the listeners enjoy these conversations as much as I do, because I definitely enjoy them. And get some sleep. We'll definitely talk again in the very near future. I'll send you links to the show once it's up and live, and you can feel free to share wherever you would like. And we'll talk again soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, we will. Let's not make it as long as we did last time. I'm pretty open these days, so even if you have something exciting you want to ask me about, or randomly invite me on your other show, because you never know when I'm going to be up real late. So yeah,
I'll keep loop with that. Yeah, that's why for a while I would do it. I'm like, well, she's always, it's hard, it's late, but then I'm like,
I invite
yeah,
you never.
That's what I figured. I kind of figured like, well, it wouldn't hurt, because I'm like, if she happens to just be up, sometimes we've all been there where we're up, we can't sleep. It's like, why not just jump on for a little bit? And so I'm sure everybody enjoys seeing you on that show and pop in. So yeah, I'll definitely keep you updated on the next one and what we're topic we might be hitting on or whatnot. I'll keep you in the loop with that. Enjoy your Friday and your weekend, and we'll definitely keep in touch and talk soon.
Awesome.
Thanks.
It was awesome. I love chatting with you anytime. And
Thanks, same
yeah,
here. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Jessica, and thanks for staying up. I appreciate it.
big dog, they're gorgeous.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it makes it a little easier to all the work and everything. It makes it worth it when they're adorable. Like, if I had ugly kids, they'd probably be living on the porch. But I'm these are jokes, people.
Yeah.
just to clarify.
And I don't like spraying poop around, for the record.
Yeah, so no videos out there. I don't want to see any memes. I don't even know why I would plant that seed. That was my fault. That was an awful strategy to even plant that seed that anybody should be trying to make a meme.
That's great. I love it. Whatever you guys want to do, I'll have a good laugh. Thanks.
Don't ruin her professional image. She has a professional image out there. And
if that could ruin my professional image, maybe it wasn't so solid.
yeah, good point. Solid. Wrong word. We're talking.
Oh no! I didn't think Okay, I'm saying goodnight before this degenerates.
Thanks, Jessica. Talk soon.
Lots of love.